Hello, and once again, welcome to Social Justice Spotlight with your host, Rush the Zeppelin, the weekly segment where I shine a light on the ignorance and hypocrisy of the regressive left. If we are ever to push back against the zombie hordes to make way for rational discourse, then we must never allow ourselves to be ignorant of the craziness surrounding us on a weekly basis. So once again, this week has certainly not disappointed us. I would like to start off this week with the college commie gift that keeps on giving, Trigglypuff. So it appears now that one of Trigglypuff's friends, a Hampshire college student named Jenny Chinkin, has issued a complaint towards Cassie Dillon, the campus reform journalist that filmed the now infamous meltdown. She has issued several demands in a letter starting with her demand that Dillon be doxxed in, of course, true regressive fashion from the Campus Reform Media Organization. It should also come as no surprise that Ms. Chinkin is also demanding a public apology directly to Trigglypuff because she is now being cyberbullied, as well as a demand that the video be taken down. After a bit of research, it does appear Cassie might be in violation of Massachusetts' two-party consent laws, although it really comes down to whether the raving of the social justice warrior qualifies as a conversation under the law. Of course, I'm no legal expert on this, but I certainly feel that if you're going to act like this in public, then you should expect nothing less than to be mocked and ridiculed. I have linked the article below if you would like to review Chinkin's letter. On to our next story. It appears the University of Massachusetts just doesn't want to stay out of the spotlight. It appears now that they are mandating that all 22,000 enrolled students attend diversity classes that demand students, quote, create change towards social justice and hold attitudes which value cultural diversity. As usual, they are trying to force critical theory bullshit down the throats of every student while trying to claim that these views are nonpartisan. After all, if you wholeheartedly believe these views, then you almost certainly feel compelled to accept redistribution of wealth based off of these perceived injustices, which is most certainly an issue that falls on one side of the partisan divide. At the same time, they refuse to value diversity of political thought, and this sentiment is even shared by some members of the staff there. A few are even going so far as to rightfully label this indoctrination. In somewhat lighter college news, Penn State is hosting a social justice fair that shockingly is presenting more of both sides of the topic, to be perfectly honest. Amazingly, they featured speakers from both the local Democrat and Republican parties. They even had local business leaders coming in to talk about responsible consumerism instead of perhaps trying to demonize capitalism itself. At the same time, they of course included student projects on such topics as Black Lives Matter and gun violence on campuses. While I can't be sure that equal representation was necessarily given to both sides of the issue, I do still have to applaud Penn State for not shying away from showing actual opposing viewpoints. More colleges should certainly be following their lead if they want to continue to be places where young adults can actually have their presupposed ideas challenged. My last story dealing with social justice on college campuses actually baffled me a bit, though. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg gave a speech at the University of Michigan in which he derided a culture of safe spaces and trigger warnings.
Like the importance of teamwork, has nothing to do with your major. It is about how to study, how to cooperate, how to listen carefully, how to think critically, and how to resolve conflicts through reason. In other words, it is working with others. Those are the most important skills in the working world, and it's why colleges have always exposed students to challenging and uncomfortable ideas. And the fact that some university boards and administrations now bow to pressure groups and shield students from these ideas through safe spaces, code words, and trigger warnings is, in my view, a terrible mistake. The whole purpose of college is to learn how to deal with difficult situations, not to run away from them. A microaggression is exactly that, micro. But in a macro sense, one of the most dangerous places on a college campus is the so-called safe space, because it creates a false impression that we can isolate ourselves from those who hold different views. We can't and we shouldn't try, not in politics or in the workplace.
Honestly, the speech itself was excellent and certainly encouraged students to challenge their own ideas in all areas of their adult lives. The problem I have with this is that I feel Bloomberg is being somewhat hypocritical in that during his tenure as mayor, he certainly reinforced the idea that it's okay for government to shield people from potentially harmful habits towards one's own health. Why does he not also feel the same about shielding people from ideas that they view are harmful? This nanny state attitude towards health, I believe, is somewhat fostering of the nanny state attitude towards ideas. After all, many of the cultural Marxists are wanting the government to actually codify their lunacy. Moving on to the realm of pop culture, we have disheartening news about a beloved DC comic hero, Green Arrow. It appears he is officially becoming a social justice warrior. For those that don't know, Green Arrow is the alter ego of magnate Oliver Queen, CEO of Queen Consolidated. In the newest upcoming series of the comic, he will be fighting an internal struggle between whether he can do the most good as a wealthy man or, in his own words, a social justice warrior. According to the current writer, Benjamin Percy, he wants to reflect the rhetoric of the past few months in his newest story arc. I find this disconcerting because he is trying to say that Green Arrow, being a Robin Hood type figure, is internally conflicted, that he is fighting against the man while at the same time being the man. This is the problem few seem to understand about the Robin Hood story, though, is he was not exactly fighting against the rich. He was actually fighting against King John, who taxes people to the hilt in a feudal system, so in essence he was simply a vigilante fighting actually against theft. Oliver Queen, however, as a business owner, made his money not at the tip of the sword, but actually through capitalism. In other words, the free and voluntary exchange of goods and services. Sadly, this is not a view most people have of capitalism these days. Granted, it does have a lot to do with the fact that in many ways we are not really a true capitalist society anymore, but rather in a system where those with money are able to buy the power of the state to protect themselves from having to compete in the market. This comic series will certainly not be helping that view when they have a rich man willfully viewing himself as part of the problem, when in fact those that are rich can contribute immensely to society, whether through innovative products and ideas, making those products more efficiently through capital investment, thereby bringing down prices, or through genuine philanthropy. To wrap things up for the week, we have an article about UK ad regulators going off the deep end to appease the jumbo-sized feminist crowd. I'll go ahead and throw out a trigger warning for all those like me with thin privilege. Yes, they are actually attacking advertisers for using anyone that isn't overweight because, quote, it reinforces gender stereotyping. First of all, when did being healthy become a stereotype? Second of all, why is this a gender issue? Last I checked, I'm pretty damn sure men can be too skinny or too fat the same as women, and it's not like the woman in the Protein World ad was necessarily anorexic or anything. In fact, I actually go rock climbing with plenty of women that are in about the same shape as her. Are these women sexist, being objectified, stereotyping, or causing anyone harm because they actually take care of their bodies? I mean, admittedly, yes, someone can get depressed that they aren't exactly in as great of shape as the model pictured, but at the same time, letting them wallow in the ignorance of unhealthiness is not exactly going to make them any healthier either. And yes, I know that not everybody has the genetic propensity to have that kind of figure either, but with proper diet and exercise, you can certainly look a lot better on the beach, which I feel was really the point of the ad. The worst part is that the UK has socialized healthcare, and everyone else in the UK that can take care of their weight is now burdened with the very serious health consequences of paying for fat women and men alike. Where are the incentives anymore to actually have at least some agency whenever it comes to your personal well-being? I swear if this attitude takes hold in America, then I might just be looking at a permanent vacation to Russia, as it seems to be the only place in the West that actually pushes back against these insane attitudes. Well, I think that about wraps it up for the second installment of Social Justice Spotlight. As always, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, this is Rush the Zeppelin signing off.